If you want to get into the photography or videography business, this video is for you. I'm talking with Joseph Porter, who runs a successful photo and video business in Cincinnati. He gives some of the best advice I've ever heard about breaking into the business, handling clients, and the best tactics for finding success in this industry. Tell me about your video and photography business.
Yeah, so I've been in kind of the creative realm for about 12 or 13 years now. Started out as a photographer primarily, and then got into filmmaking. Yeah, so nowadays I do client work, work with churches, nonprofits, and everything in between.
Do you have an office or do you work from home?
A little bit of both. So I do a lot of my work from home, and then I have a co-op space for meeting with particular people, clients, or doing creative sessions, things like that.
I think at some point, every filmmaker like you and I end up delving into the world of wedding video and photography. What are some of the best ways you've marketed yourself in the wedding business?
I always tried to just be really honest with my marketing. It hasn't really changed over the years. I just kind of say, here's who we are, here's what we value. Try not to spread too thin to like, we can do all these different things. I think it's important to kind of know who you are and what's important to you and what your kind of bend is. And I think that helps us be a little bit unique. Obviously, there's lots of really great photographers out there who shoot similar to me. It's not like we're one in a million, but it does help us set apart a little bit. So I just am really honest, especially when I meet with people. I'm not interested in trying to convince them to use me. If that lines up with what they want, great, because then everybody's gonna be happier later. The number of people who have gotten into weddings and gotten out because of such a terrible experience is pretty common. And then simplicity too. So we just very clearly state, here's how much it costs to hire us for this. And there's no like, call us to customize a package that scares people. So very easy entry point. And then I choose photos that specifically are going to be attractive to that type of client. So like I have a photo right now of like a guy smoking a cigar at a wedding. It's a polarizing picture. So for the right person, they're like, that's freaking sweet. I like this guy. For the wrong kind of client, they're like, why would he put this third on his website? Why is there not a bride on there? Those people are not bad. They just need a different photographer. I'm very specific with how I choose my photos.
What have you done to make yourself stand out in this business?
What's helping me stand out nowadays is being able to put together a great story. It's, as you know, the barrier of entry for video and photography is pretty low. Like if you put together a couple $1,000, you can have some pretty decent gear. That means there's a lot of folks out there who don't quite have the skills to piece together the nuances to craft a great story. So that's helped me kind of set myself apart because people have really great experiences when they hire me. I've found that I've been able to make people feel comfortable. And that's a different skill than being able to shoot video. I'm not the greatest like cinematographer in the world. People have better gear than me, and so all that's fine, but I think it's people's experience. They really feel comfortable.
What are some of the best tactics you use to make your clients feel more comfortable in front of the camera?
Communicating ahead of time of what to expect. So some people are just anxious about the process. So I'll be interviewing someone, it's for the purposes of talking to them for 10 minutes and then pulling out the snippets and creating a story. People are very afraid of looking stupid. That's just a natural human thing. So I just set expectations at the beginning to let them know, hey, we're gonna have a conversation and there's no way you can mess this up. You just be yourself and just trust me. Most people like just a real person on camera. So if you say and you stumble, that's fine. People like that because that's who they are. If it's too clean and too polished, people don't buy it. So I just let them know up front, like, it's okay to just be yourself. And then I'll edit if there's, awkward moments and things like that, and I'll make you look good, I promise.
What kind of clients do you service outside of the wedding business?
Any kind of video service that you could think of. Typically, if it's a commercial, it's going to be still kind of a documentary kind of style to where I'm capturing that service or that product in action. So that's kind of like my bend. And so same thing with nonprofits. They're usually looking for stories of how their service is impacting their people and their community. So I'm looking for ways to capture that in real time. So whether that's an event or interviews, things like that. And then I have had a chance to do some more scripted commercials. Those are higher price point and higher kind of demand as far as all my time and crew and things like that. So I've done a few of those, but I like the kind of documentary kind of style.
I can tell you that from working here in Indiana over the last 10 years that the business landscape for this industry isn't great. What's it like to work in the photo and video business in Cincinnati?
I think it's a great market for that. I think it's because of P&G, so Procter & Gamble just kind of raises the level of everything in the city. So there's all these agencies that feed in, and I've done some work for different agencies that work with P&G. So then you have a lot of design agencies that make their home base here in Cincinnati. So you got a lot of work that flows from that. Market-wise, there's just a good range. It's a very broad range of people here in the city and then the outskirts as well. So it's just a good market. Yeah, if you're in a smaller market, it would be a little tougher. But like I said, I found my niche in nonprofit world, and Cincinnati's big with that. So a lot of foundations. As a whole, though, I think just people seeing great video shot, and that's all in their social media feeds, it kind of prompts them to think like, oh, I should probably be doing this. And in some cases, they don't need to.
How did you decide your prices on what to charge clients?
Yeah, that's always a tricky thing. I mean, I got some experience with that with weddings over the years, and we did a high enough volume to where we could kind of tinker with it. This doesn't sound like super great, but typically I just charge the amount of money that I think someone will pay. That's what my market value is what someone will pay. Well, I don't know that starting out, so I just throw a number out there with weddings, and I see how many leads start to come in. So like we would advertise with like Wedding Wire or The Knot, and if they're kind of pouring in, they're like, ooh, I'm probably a little low, because people see that as like super high value. So that would just bump it up a little bit. And as long as they would keep trickling in, then it was good. If I made it too high and I'll get a lead for a couple weeks, now the market has told me what I'm worth. And then I just think about like, what amount of money do I need? How many hours do I have in a week? And how much work do I want to do? And I say, this is how much money I want to make per hour. And I just go about making sure that I'm providing work at that rate. For me, the number I've landed on, my time away from my family, is worth $100 an hour. Billable. So as you know, as a freelancer, you're not actually making $100 an hour because there's all sorts of other time you spend, but that's about where it landed for me, for my time. And that seems to be in line with what other people are charging. And then also I almost always quote flat fee for people. So that helps the client manage their risk. And I've been doing it long enough to where I can pretty close to estimate how many hours it's going to take. And I want them thinking about the return on investment for their money. So if they can pay for a $5,000 video and they're going to raise $250,000 on it, that's a bargain. Who cares how many hours I spend on it? I charge based on how quickly the average person would do it, not me. So I'm not going to penalize myself for being efficient. So I think, all right, the average person, this would be about 10-hour edit. I could do it in about 6. So I'm going to charge 10 because that still creates value. I'm still creating value for the client. Most of my clients are referrals. I have to make sure I have a really good relationship, so then there's good trust and communication. So then I don't really worry about when they email and say, hey, can you make these other kind of bigger changes to the edit? I can just reply back and say, I'd love to do that. That kind of falls outside of the original scope. So do you want me to re-quote you for that? Phone conversation is always good for that because you can really massage it better. Let them know, here's what I was thinking when we originally quoted. I'm happy to do the new work. I think those are great ideas. It's going to cost a little bit extra to get that done. Is that something that you're okay with? And most of the time they are.
How do you go about getting referrals or leads in general?
Well, in the wedding side, that stuff's easy because I just pay advertising to Wedding Wire or The Knot. I don't know how many, 90% of something brides go through that anyway. So that's easier for me. If you have marketing dollars to spend, that would be my recommendation. On the video side of things, I think I just try to live my life to where I'm just constantly meeting people and I'm interested in them and I'm curious. So I don't consider it networking, but it kind of is. So I meet someone and they're like, yeah, let's do lunch. And I have a conversation and I'm genuinely interested in them. And I never pitch anybody. I never say, well, do you have any video needs? But they end up talking about what I do, and either they or someone knows someone. And it's like anything. People want to do business with someone that they like and that they can trust. They really don't care about how skilled you are. I mean, I hustle too. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm looking for either contract jobs or things that people are putting out there. Yeah, and there's different sites where you can quote contract work. I think that's a great way to start out. Usually the rates are pretty low on some of those things where you're putting in bids. And you have to be wise. Some people will try to take advantage. They're looking for bottom of the barrel quality and they want to pay cheap, and I'm not interested in that. But if it's somebody that seems interesting, I'll just jump in at a lower rate and then see where that goes. So that helps too. I would not offer to do things for free for people, because it really sets you up for failure, because now you're working with someone who doesn't value you. Unless it's like pro bono, you're helping out a friend of a friend and shooting a story for them for a Kickstarter campaign. It's different, but like not just straight up, I'll do free work, because you're gonna just get frustrated.
Do you have any final pieces of advice or even questions for me?
I would say like last piece of advice is really not video related, but it's really like focusing on what kind of person are you becoming and being, and not focusing so much on, I want to do this kind of work. Like, it's easy to get fixated on like the type of work we want to do. But if we're actually putting more emphasis on like, how am I developing as a person? How am I growing? It's a win-win, because it either changes your perspective on what you wanted. Some of your goals and visions will shift over time. Or the other win, again, we talked about this earlier, is like if you're becoming a great person and you're providing value to people and showing love to them and respect and all these sorts of things, it's a magnet. People want to be around you and have you be a part of their projects. And so that's not even marketing. That's just focus on being a good human and see where it takes you from there. So, not that I'm a good human. I try.
That's all we can do is try, right?
That's right.